Can you just confirm that you can still hear me? Perfect. Thank you. All right. So today is the pre-bid conference for RFP 184157 for historical roof repairs for the Renew Detroit program. My name is Jamila Watkins. I'm from the City of Detroit Office of Contracting and Procurement. I'm just going to get started. I'm just introducing the RFP and going over the key dates and necessary content for your proposal. So let me see here. Let me make sure that my screen is shared. Can you all see my screen? You can? Okay, great. So I want to
But
pull up.
we're seeing
You're seeing
ourselves.
yourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me let's share this document. I'm just going to minimize. Um, Darlene, you can see the document now, right? Okay,
It's
great.
good. It's good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the RFP. It was advertised or published on November the 15th. Today is the pre-bid conference, the 29th. Questions are going to be due next Wednesday, December 6th by 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on or before then. Submit all your questions through the supplier portal through the negotiation. And please make sure that your portal is set for Eastern Standard Time. That is an issue. I believe the default setting may be the universal time, but it's up to the supplier to change that setting to Eastern Standard Time. And that is very important because when you submit, you don't want to be confused about the time. All right. So that's very important. Your answers are going to be distributed by Friday, December 8th, if not before then. And proposals are due on the 15th of December by 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Later in a few minutes, I'm going to put information in the chat for those of you who may not be registered as suppliers yet, or for those of you who may need assistance navigating the portal to contact our e-procurement team. I'll put their email address in the chat. And please note that if you, just in case you have any problems submitting or anything, I encourage you to try to submit your proposal before that deadline, because if you start having problems and you don't contact me or anyone for help until after, we may not be able to help you. So you don't want to wait until the last minute. So I just want to encourage you about that. All right, so let's go to page 15 of the proposal, of the RFP rather, just to go over evaluation criteria, and there are four. So you'll be evaluated on your work proposal and approach, your capacity, your organization and staff experience, and finally pricing. All of those criteria are weighted at 25 points each for a total of 100. And please note that your technical proposals will be evaluated before your cost proposal is reviewed. Okay. So everything's weighted equally. So, but just know that. I next want to go to page 17 to go over required proposal content and format. And I want to make sure I am recording. I am. Okay, good. All right, so required proposal content and format. Every proposal needs to have a letter of transmittal. This is just a brief introduction of your company. But most importantly, that letter should have a statement in it stating that your proposal is going to be good for 120 days. Please make sure you include that. Other required content includes attachment A, your questionnaire, and I'm pulling those up as I go. Please just complete everything neatly and completely. Attachment B, your proposal introduction and approach. That is here. Attachment C, the pricing sheet, which Darlene and her team are going to go over later. Your pricing is going to be completed here. Then there's going to be attachment D. This is I believe, the capacity calculator. Attachment E, your employee experience spreadsheet. Attachment F, this is the square calculator. Attachment G are the forms, affidavits, and documents. This is very important. All of these have to be completed totally, and there are at least two that require notarization. Then there is attachment E, which is the model professional services contract. It's important that you look this over. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That is H. E is something else, and here it is. That is that. Okay, so that was that. I'm out of sequence. Then F is the square calculator. G is the required, the documents, affidavits, and forms. Then, okay, H. My bad. All right, H is the model professional services contract. You want to make sure you go over this, read through it because this is an example of the contract you would be signing with the city. And on page 10 of this contract, you're going to find your required insurances, okay? And we're going to need proof of that as well. So please be sure to go through that. Then we have attachment I-1. This is from BC, the roof requirements, and attachment I-2, which was basically included as information for you because, Darlene, I believe that this is what applicants to the program completed. Is that correct?
I'll review that further when we go over because it's a little more complex than that.
Got you. Thank you very much. Okay. And finally, attachments J, K, and L. Let me go here. J, K, and L are your bond forms. So performance bond, bid bond, and payment bond. Everyone's responding must, and I'm just pulling them all up. Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself as you come in. I hear background noise. But the bid bond here, which is attachment K, everyone responding must submit a bid bond, and you must use this form here for that. Okay, so everyone that's submitting a proposal must submit a bid bond, and that bid bond needs to be for 5% of your total proposal cost. If you are selected as a contractor, you will have to provide a performance and payment bond for 100% of the contract value. So those are all the attachments, and that information is actually found on page 20. Let me go. Here we go. Page 24 of the RFP. So here's where you're going to find all of your attachments. So that is the end of my segment. Thank you for your time and attention. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Darlene Carroll and the team from Housing and Revitalization.
Thank you so much, Jamila, and good morning, everyone. If you could just give me a quick thumbs up to let me know that you are able to hear me, that would be fantastic. Okay, great. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. So Jamila has gone over a lot of the basic information that is needed for this RFP submission. Myself and Brittany are going to go over some additional details that you're going to need in order to be prepared for this bid if you are eligible and interested. So the first thing I do want to do is I want to talk through a little bit about ARPA. So ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. It is a federal stimulus bill that is providing the funding that is used for Renew Detroit. So with that being said, I just want to make sure to make it clear from the start, we do have to follow all of the federal guidelines that are set forth in this RFP. If you have experience bidding on local contracts, those follow different parameters and different guidelines. So you do want to make sure, as Jamila mentioned, that you are combing through that RFP, all of that information, because it may be different than what you are used to if you have bid on local contracts before. So our program, as I mentioned, is funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. One of the things that we are doing at this point is we are going out for what we're calling our historical roof replacement RFP. What that is we are, as a program, Renew Detroit is anticipated to provide 2,000 major home repairs between 2022 and 2024 that we're contracting for. As part of the set of bids that we have put out, this one is specifically targeting residents that are part of local historic districts within the city of Detroit. We're bidding these jobs out separately because of the unique circumstances that a lot of these areas have, as well as the additional requirements that are needed in order for us to be able to successfully provide either a roof repair or a roof replacement, depending on the condition of the home and what is needed for historical purposes. So this specific RFP, we're looking to cover up to 50 residential homes. They are located all around the city of Detroit. What is unique, though, is that they're all part of a local historic district, and we'll review what some of those are as examples in a few slides. Our program for Renew Detroit was funded in two different phases. So we have residents that are taking part in phase one of Renew Detroit and phase two. This specific RFP is focused on roof replacements, however, and it is 184157 if you're looking for it in the Oracle portal. This will be the last roof replacement RFP that we're going to be putting out for 2023. So I want to make sure I call that out. And this RFP will be looking for up to 3 awards or 3 different contracts. And each contract will be for up to 20 homes. Next, I'm going to go over a little bit about our project background and our team setup. So for Renew Detroit, we are set up with a 3-pronged approach. We have a program or resident-facing portion, we have operations, and we have our construction teams. So I'm going to take a quick moment and let me just double check before I do that. If we have anybody on from our program team and you want to come off mute and say hello, that would be awesome.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Justin. I am the Senior Program Specialist at Renew Detroit. Excited to be a part of this meeting, excited to be a part of this process. So, good morning, everybody.
Thank you so much, Justin. I appreciate that. And then Rashida, our Deputy Director, is also part of our program team that handles anything related to resident interactions. And then from our operations team, if I can have you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott. I'm the office operations supervisor. So, hey, I'm here to help the program team, help on construction side, whatever Darlene needs.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And then I'm going to introduce you all to our construction manager, who will then introduce members of her team.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brittany Drake. I'm the construction manager for New Detroit. On with me from the construction team, I believe I have Marilyn Van Rant. She is a project superintendent. Marilyn, if you want to say hello.
Good morning. My name is Marilyn, and I am the junior project superintendent for Renew Detroit.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And so Brittany and I are going to be going through the slides for this morning to go over what our requirements are for this specific RFP, as well as some of the nuances, because this one will be a little bit different because of the fact that we're going to be dealing with historic homes as we go through this actual bidding process. So our program goal was as an overall program, because we were funded by ARPA, and so we're not a permanent city program, our goal was to drastically increase the number of home repairs that the city of Detroit was delivering. And we were able to do that due to the influx of funding that we received from the federal government. Our goal as a program is to double or triple the existing capacity that we had as a city as far as the ability to provide home repairs to residents. Because of that process, one of the ways that we do that is we have created a very assembly-like fashion when it comes to the way that we run our program and the way that we standardize a lot of what we do. So for those of you who have joined us before at different pre-bid meetings, probably familiar with some of the things that we're going to talk about. What I do want to note, however, is that because of the uniqueness involved with working with homes that are in local historic districts, we know that there are going to be a lot of one-off and miscellaneous items that we're going to be reviewing, just because all of the scopes of work are going to be unique based on the actual historic district and those specific requirements, as well as the existing structure and condition of the home that we're going to be looking at. So I do want to make sure that I call that out because some of these processes we'll have to be flexible with as we encounter different things with these specific residents that we're going to be working with throughout this process. So for our program, we've already conditionally selected the residents that are going to be participating. So that is something that our team takes care of, and we are the ones who provide that information to the contractors that we work for. We also limit our scopes of work to one major repair. So in our case, we are looking for roofs in these contracts. That is the only thing that we're working on, roof and roof related items such as gutters and downspouts. That is a little different than some of the other programs that the city runs that are home repair related. A lot of times they will tackle different items throughout the home. That adds a level of complexity, of course. And so by us focusing on a specific repair, it allows us to be a little bit more efficient. And we also do something called line item pricing. So one of the things that you'll notice, and Jamila went over briefly, is our pricing attachment is looking at all-inclusive, all-in pricing based on certain descriptors. That is what we're going to use to evaluate contractors with, of course, the understanding that we'll have additional review if there are any unique scopes of work that we encounter based on the needs of a specific home and guidance that we receive from the Historical District Commission or HDC. So one of the things that we work on for our contractors as far as Renew Detroit is we want to make sure that we're providing as much support as possible so that we're moving efficiently and moving quickly. We know that our residents are in dire need of these repairs. We are also up against things like weather. And so we really try to make sure that we can be as much of a support as possible for the vendors that we work with. So some of the ways that we do that is we liaise with BSeed on your behalf. So making sure that permits are issued timely, ensuring that certificate of acceptances are printed and ready to go. Also working with our Historical District Commission to pre-review any of your submissions before there's applications that are submitted. And the reason that that's important is because it ensures that we can be successful in our application rates, avoid having to rework or make any corrections if we can liaise with our Historical District Commission in advance, make sure that we have everything, all of the guidance taken into consideration in our scope of works and in our bids. When we go to submit those applications, it gives us a much better standing so that we can move forward and avoid any delays on that end. We also use standardized templates for invoicing, which makes things a lot quicker so that we can get through the payment process and avoid putting a lot more work on you all as vendors and instead having our team be able to provide that additional support, as well as meeting with you all weekly to gather any feedback that you might have and figure out ways that we can find some synergy so that we can work efficiently through the contracts that we have in place. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there and I'm going to kick it over to Brittany. She's going to go over for us our detailed scope of work or summary of work, I should say.
Good morning again, everyone. So for our scope of work highlights, I'm going to go over a couple bullet points here that are going to be very important with working on this historic RFP. So you are going to be required to consult with the HDC staff for requirements on each specific property. Um, this is going to require you to complete the RD historic property template that we will provide to you all, and you will submit this to the city RD staff, which is going to be Renew Detroit, along with a bid that encompasses all items that are called out by the historic district. Darlene, do you want to go over this? These, yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. And just to make sure, Brittany, you just want me to show the item, right?
Yeah, just so then they're knowing which ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is an example, and we'll go over this in more detail with the vendors that actually are selected, but we have created just a property template that we're going to have our vendors submit to us after they have interfaced and liaised with HDC. So you're going to get all your guidance from HDC on the specific home, what all needs to be included. You're going to go ahead and fill out this template and provide this to Renew Detroit along with pictures, color codes that match the local historic district that you're working with, and then your bid. And so this is what we will be expecting to review from our end as far as for Renew Detroit, to know whether we can move forward with the actual application for the Historical District Commission. That application is the one that is part of your RFP already. So I believe Jamila had pulled that up, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen just so that you have it. And basically, this is the application that is already currently on the website for the Historical District Commission. So if you've worked with homes before that are in these areas, you're probably familiar with this form, this request form. And so this is what that will look like once you have approval from Renew Detroit construction staff to go ahead and submit this and move forward. And so just to kind of summarize and bring it back all together, the reason that we do it this way is we want to make sure that before you go into submitting that actual application, you've consulted with HDC, you know what scope of work requirements are needed, you've worked with Renew Detroit to get all of your bid information approved and submitted, so that way by the time you get to that actual project request form, we know that everything is in place and you have a higher chance to succeed and be able to move that forward. Thanks, Brittany.
Nope, thank you. You all are going to be required to submit a Eagle View or similar aerial report. So we have seen Snapped, Roofer, Hover. So any of those aerial reports will be required to be submitted with those bids. When submitting bids, we have a contractual requirement that is going to allow you to bid at 115% plus 1 square. And in order to get this calculation, you'll be using the Renew Detroit square calculator that Darlene has up on the screen. Thank you so much. These, I thought you came off mute. I'm sorry. So in that green box, you would be putting in the 0% calculation from the area report, and then it'll auto populate the squares that you are allowed to bid on that bid template. Pretty simple. The formula is already in there for you. This is just so we're making sure that when you all are submitting your bids, you're doing less work and making sure that we can have a quick review because we already know we're within that contractual allocation. So after we have our area reports, we have our square calculator, we are submitting for our bids. After the RD approval, there is going to be a couple of steps that you all are going to have to take with HDC. So you are going to have to appear before the HDC at their regular monthly meetings. This is necessary and also a requirement. You will begin the terms of agreement and all other required permits must be in place. So you would have to have a permit with BSeed in place and also a terms of agreement, which we would provide to you all or the homeowner for them to sign. This is our legal agreement stating which work is going to be done on their home. So all of these documents are going to be needed to be completed, signed off, and approved before we can move forward in construction. Based on the HDC guidance and the scope of work will be drafted. This is going to also encompass any requirements or any necessary repairs that RD is also including. That's the scope of work that you'll be working on only to complete repairs on the home. The contractor must notify Renew Detroit when each project is in 1 day of finishing demo. We need to be there when the roof is open. We're also going to require that you have any findings outside of the scope of work that they are communicated to Renew Detroit immediately. We also need that in writing, so we will provide to you all a communications box. It's a shared box for all of us. This is where you will document anything that you're going to require a project change for, any escalations, any concerns that you have on a day-to-day basis. This is going to be the best point of contact for Renew Detroit. We are going to provide to you all a photo policy. This is going to require a set of photos that encompass each stage of construction. So we want to see all phases. We want to see when the roof is open. We want to see when ice and water shield is on. We want to see if there's any sheathing replacements. That policy is very specific in what we require. Each contract will have a direct contact. We'll get to that comment shortly. A point of contact with Renew Detroit. So we have project superintendents on. You also have myself, depending on which area you are working in or depending on what phase in construction you're in, you will have a dedicated project superintendent to reach out to should you need anything on a day-to-day. The roof replacement will include all manufacturer's warranties and Michigan minimum 18-month warranty on the installation. This is going to be the standard. This is also going to include that 18-month complaint period.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brittany. And what I want to make sure that I note here is because we're going to be working with homes that are in local historic districts, we're going to make sure that we do as much legwork as possible before we submit that application to the HDC. If and only when they require that monthly meeting be attended because there is a question or something outside of the scope of work based on that specific neighborhood, those appearances before those committees will be required of by our vendors. So we want to make sure that you are taking that into account when you are submitting for this proposal. If you are interested, you want to make sure that you have experience doing that and navigating that so that you can be as successful as possible. The other thing as well that I want to note is that because we're going to be working on historic homes and using the guidance from HDC, there may be instances where you're not actually doing a full roof replacement. You may just be doing a roof repair. So you want to make sure that you are taking all of that into account when you are going through this, making sure that your vendor or your business has that skill set, because there may be situations where a roof replacement is not an option, and repairs will need to be taking place in the style of the existing historical requirements for that area. In addition to that, our photo policy will also include making sure that we have all of that documented. So we want to make sure that we have visual documentation of anything that is occurring at a home. We want all of it as it's happening, as well as once it's completed and daily, to make sure that we're keeping the home in the standard that we need for our residents, since these are owner occupied properties.
For our summary of the scope of work, all of the items listed below are going to be needed to be completed within 60 calendar days of start. So you'll be required to remove and dispose of all previous shingles and or sheeter stake as determined by HTC. So this is going to be basically a reflection of what Darlene just said. Each home is going to be different. There may not always be a full replacement. There may be repairs. So depending on what the scope of work is for the particular home, you are going to be required to dispose of whatever is previously there, meaning that's going to be a replacement or it's going to be a repair. Replace any or all rotted sheathing, rebuild or repair any damaged rafters or support beams. Ensure that all roofs are completed to Michigan and City of Detroit code requirements and any additional requirements as instructed by the HDC. You're going to install any necessary venting and flashing, a standard, replace and or repair. So this is going to be specific to each home as well. Gutters and downspouts to code and based on the guidance by HDC. You will pull and receive an approval for all permits and make sure that all sites are clean of construction materials once the roof and repair is complete. On here are a couple other highlights, and just this is going to be examples of photos that we are requesting for you all. So remember, I spoke over the photo policy. These are examples of those photos taken from homes that we have worked on in the past. So we're going to ask for that open roof shot where it has the exposed and decking and ice and water shield installed also. We want to see any fascia and soffits at the existing, as well as any work that is going to be corrected. We want to look at flashing. We're going to look at that venting, whether it be those turtle vents or if we're going to look at that ridge venting. And we want to make sure that we have a clear view and a full shot of the front and the rear of those homes. Our best advice is always to take a step back all the way to the street if you need to. This is the view that we need to be able to ensure to show when we're invoicing that this is the home that the work was done on, as well as those close-up shots showing that the work was completed. All change order work must also be captured with the same photos. So if you're stating that you have a repair for 100 linear feet of fascia, I need to see that fascia before it's repaired, also after, just as an example. Thank you, DC.
This is me. So I'm going to go over just some of the additional RFP highlights for those of you, if you are on the call and you are interested in bidding on this particular opportunity. Section 2.1.3 of your RFP goes into the detailed roles and responsibilities. So it breaks down what the vendor is responsible for and what we are responsible for as Renew Detroit, since it takes both of us working together to ensure that we can be successful getting these repairs completed. Section 3.1 goes over minimum requirements. So these are items that are going to be needed in order to be able to provide an eligible proposal. So you want to make sure that you have either the Michigan Residential Builders License or the Alterations License. You also have to be registered with BSEED, which is our Building and Safety Department. You should be able to demonstrate successful prior experience completing 10 roof replacements or repairs since January 1st of 2021, and at least 3 of these must be within local historic districts within the city of Detroit. Specifically for this RFP for evaluation purposes, we are really looking for contractors who have this experience, who have been through these types of repairs and replacements, so that we can get these repairs done as quickly and efficiently as possible. We're going to be looking to you as experts in this category of repair, and we need to make sure that you as a company are prepared and equipped to go through all of the steps necessary as quickly as possible within these 60 days. We also want to make sure that we can demonstrate successful prior experience doing repairs on historic homes, downspouts, fascia, and soffits, having to bring things up to those standards. And also successful experience with environmental requirements, as well as making sure that you meet all of the city contracting requirements. So anything that Jamila's team is going to ask for, things like clearances, affidavits, insurance, bonding, all of those items, which again, I'll stress, you want to make sure you go through that RFP in detail, because all of those requirements are outlined in those documents. You're going to want to make sure, as far as your respondent tables, you're going to see a few attachments, as Jamila had already gone over, that you have to complete. You want to make sure that you are thoroughly completing all of those documents when you submit them. Sometimes we will see vendors submitting the blank templates back to us. We want to just make sure that you're being mindful of what you're submitting. If you need to rename the attachments for your cognizance, please do so, and making sure that you're editing only the highlighted fields, so that we can actually be able to review your proposal holistically with all of the actual information. So please make sure that we are looking at that as we go through, and then making sure that when we're submitting our proposal that we include all of those requisite attachments with those items. A couple of items to go over. So we do have liquidated damages that we put on properties wherever we find that we are going above and beyond the timelines that are required for us to do these repairs. We do this because as you know, we're working with owner occupied homes, we're working with disabled and elderly residents. We need to make sure that we are being mindful of their time and space, so that we can turn their home back over to them and they can have free entrance and exit into their home. So we are going to be looking at 60 calendar days for these repairs that we're going to be doing through this RFP. We obviously do not include any inclement weather days, and we want to make sure that vendors are communicating with us if we encounter any issues that are going to cause a delay, so that we are aware. We also do liquidated damages for closing walks that have obvious non-compliance. So as part of the roles and responsibilities, our team will do an additional closing walk along with the final inspection that BSEED completes. And we want to make sure that when we are being called out to do closing walks, that there is not anything obviously wrong with the property, because that takes up our resources as a team, but it also delays the homeowner as well, because now we have to go back again and look to see that the job was actually complete. So please make sure that you go through this when you're reviewing the RFP. And we just want to make sure that you as a company have put eyes on the home, you are comfortable with the state that it's in before you're scheduling these BSEED final inspections and asking us to come out to these homes, because we don't want to be wasting time going to job sites that are incomplete. The other thing we want to note are measurements. So with the repairs and replacements that we do, there are a lot of measurements involved. Brittany mentioned we prefer the use of aerial reports. So that is a contractual obligation. We've got to have our aerial reports that do all of the measurements for us. We use the square calculator, so we are limited to the amount of squares that we are working with, as well as just keeping in mind that our team will review any measurements that seem outside of the scope or in excess of the measurements of the home. So please just be mindful of this when you are kind of looking through those aerial reports and when you're bidding for these properties if you are successful in acquiring these contracts. One of the things that we did want to do that's a little bit different than some of the other presentations that we've done is we wanted to highlight a couple of the local historic districts that we are going to be working on just for awareness in case it's helpful for those of you that are on the call that maybe have prior experience. So here are just a few of the local historic districts that we have replacements in the pipeline for or repairs. So Boston Edison, Rosedale Park, Sherwood Forest, and Russell Woods. I've also included on the screen the website for historic district information. So if you need additional information about local historic districts and the city of Detroit and those requirements, those legislative requirements, as well as the city code, all of that information can also be found in the web as well. And I will put this link in the chat once I'm finished presenting this. Just to reiterate our project timeline, as Jamila mentioned, so this was advertised November 15th. Questions have to be submitted through the Oracle portal by December 6th, so please make sure that you do so. Please also double check your contact information in Oracle, so whoever you have listed as the email, that's where that information is going. So if you need to update that, please do so expeditiously so that you do not miss out on important information. Proposal due dates are December 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So again, to Jamila's point, please make sure your Oracle is in the correct time zone. Be mindful of that. All of our work schedules will begin pending City Council approval and in-person contractor onboarding sessions. So even if you are successful in getting the contract moved forward, just please be mindful that we do have to go through the City Council approval process. And we will be having an in-person onboarding along with members of the HDC or the Historical District Commission so that we can make sure that the vendors that we're working with have their questions answered. We know what specific properties we're working on, and we can be successful making sure that we get these much needed repairs to our residents. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing there. That was everything that we had. And then Jamila, if you want to take it back over for Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Darlene. That was excellent, you guys, as usual. And thank you for bringing up that point about the contact information in Oracle, because not a lot of people understand that. Make sure that whoever you designate as a contact person in Oracle, that that person is still with your company, that their contact information is current, because if we need additional documents or have questions or something, those emails are going to go to that person. And if you don't have the right person designated, you may miss out on communication. So keep that in mind, okay? And you can also work with e-procurement to update your contact information if necessary to add multiple contacts, because that is possible. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Here, there's a little okay, there we go. I think I've got one.
I
Oh,
was gonna
okay.
jump in. It's me, Jamila. I'm so sorry. I just realized
Uh-uh.
in the chat, Andy PCC said bidding to be material and labor correct. So I just want to clarify on our pricing sheet, you're giving us all in pricing. So you want to make sure that you are including any of your overhead costs in those prices when you're providing them. So it should include material, labor, technical, any other things, your permits, anything else that is going to be part of the process. You want to make sure that you're giving us that all in. We do not accept any line items outside of that that are part of your regular overhead costs. Back to you, Jamila.
All right, any questions? I'm looking for any hands. And while I'm waiting, I do want to point out one of the documents in attachment G, the certificate of authority this is important. There are different ones based on your organizational structure, but just please know, and I need to probably share my screen. Let me share my screen really quickly. I don't see any hands raised at this time. Okay, so this is the certificate of authority. This one is the one particular to corporations, but there are different ones depending on the organization type. But I want to highlight this portion of the form that you properly list everyone who's a part of your organization, and know that whoever is listed on this form is going to be the only person who's going to be allowed to like sign off on other documents and sign the contract, etc. And preferably, you want whoever you designate on your contact this here. Hopefully, that person may also be identified on the certificate of authority, just so the proper people are getting information and answering on behalf of your organization. So that's just something to point out. I'm going to stop sharing. I don't see any hands raised. I'm just going to, oh, here's another question in the chat. Darlene, do you see that? Oh, it's
Yep,
a
I'll go
couple.
ahead.
Oh, it
Yep,
looks like it's questions coming up in the chat as opposed in the to verbally. So you want to address these,
I'll read them.
Darlene?
Yep, I'll go ahead and read them. So the first one we have from Complete Home and Building Maintenance says we need to have 3 roof replacements within the City of Detroit historic areas, but will this include the historical area in Highland Park, 48203 zip code area? This is also Wayne County, and the housing instructions are similar. Great question. We wrote the RFP with specific requests for the City of Detroit. So we would like to have 3 in the City of Detroit. If you do not have 3 within the City of Detroit and you have one in Highland Park that you want to include, feel free to do that. Feel free to do that or do those as well. However, we're going to be specifically looking for at least 3 in the City of Detroit because our team really wants to make sure that we are looking for the best qualified historic contractors within the city that have worked within the city, if that makes sense. And then Mike Mead asked, how are we supposed to get a bond on an unknown amount? We don't know addresses or roof sizes. Is a letter from a bonding company sufficient? Also in Oracle, they request a number for the bid. What are we inputting? So I'll defer that to you, Jamila.
Okay, so Mike, so your bid bond is going to be 5% of your total proposal. So you're going to get whatever that number is. Your bid bond is for 5% of that. So that's up to you. As for the payment and performance bonds, that is going to be a requirement only for those individuals or organizations that are selected. And those organizations will be provided with the contract value. Once they have the contract value, they'll be able to go ahead and obtain those bonds for 100% of whatever that contract value is. So that's not something, that you need to be concerned about at this time. However, if you are selected, that will be something, okay? I hope that answers your question, but if it doesn't, please let me know. Are there any other questions?
Oh,
Wow.
yes. And then the last one was in Oracle, they request a number
Oh,
for the
yes.
bid.
Right. So, yeah, that's a good question too, because I have had people question that part. So, what you want to do in Oracle for that line, you can just simply add a dollar or whatever, because we're going to be looking at the spreadsheet that you submit. So, the main thing is that you thoroughly complete that spreadsheet that we referred to. And for what you enter in Oracle, just if you have to enter something, a dollar is fine, just to get past that, because I don't think it will let you finalize or submit your proposal without something entered there. All right. Anything else? This group is really quiet. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it open for a few more seconds. And if there are no questions, but again, if you don't have questions now, that's not a problem, because again, that's why we have the opportunity to submit questions through the portal. So you may not think of something until we hang up, and that's fine. You can just submit that question through the portal. Oh, okay, I've got something else. In the bid notice, it looks as though there are dollar amounts in the notice, like a bid amount. Are these suggested prices in the bid notice? Can you please, this is Great Lakes Roofing. What document specifically are you referring to? Is this James that I'm speaking with? Great Lakes Roofing.
Hey, it's Gina.
Oh, hi Gina, how are you?
Hi, everybody. So, like when you just open the bid notice on BidNet, like not in Oracle, but like the one that you get through like the BidNet program, almost like in the description, there's like amounts. It's really weird.
I don't know anything about BidNet. So
Oh,
yep, just look at what we provided for you.
okay. Yeah,
Okay?
that's weird.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
Yeah,
see if
we
I
don't
can.
we don't use BidNet.
right. Okay,
Um, okay.
okay. Yeah, so let's be clear that it may be secondary organizations that kind of
Yeah.
publish our information. That's you don't want to you want to come directly to the City of Detroit supplier page. That's why we have that for you, okay?
Yep.
Um, did anything else, Gina?
Nope.
Okay,
Thank
great
you.
talking to you. Great talking
You
to you.
too. Okay. Thanks.
There's another question here in the chat from 2086. Ms. Watkins, you mentioned that you would give contact for the companies that have not been completely signed up. Yes, I will do it again. I shared it earlier. You can scroll up, but I'm actually going to go ahead and I'll type that in now. That's our e-procurement team, and their email address is procurement in the cloud at detroitmi.gov. Okay, so I'm going to type that again, procurement in the cloud at detroitmi.gov. That is their email address. All right. Oh, thank you so much, Darlene, for sharing that supplier page. Any other questions? Oh, wait. Okay, someone's in the lobby. And okay, please know that I'm also going to get this video, this recording is going to be converted for you to a YouTube video. We're doing that now, we're fancy. And I think we may have a YouTube channel, but don't worry about that because I don't know all the information yet. But I'm going to publish this video, I'll send it out to everyone and try to get it uploaded to the negotiation page so you'll be able to rewatch if necessary. Okay, so it looks like I don't see any other questions. So I guess we're going to go ahead and end this. I do want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank everyone who participated, and of course, thank HRD Darlene and her team. Always do an excellent job. And again, any questions, do not reach out to me in email, please. Do not reach out to Darlene or anyone else. Submit your questions through the negotiation through the supplier portal. And then again, there's the information for e-procurement. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you.